In a small town in Colorado, Michael Torres ran a modest repair shop struggling to stay afloat. During a fierce snowstorm, he chose to help a stranded family whose car broke down miles from the nearest town. 2 days later, they returned with news that would transform his life in ways he never imagined. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Michael wiped his grease-stained hands and stared at the mounting bills scattered across his desk. His repair shop, Torres Auto and Diesel, had seen better days. The small mountain town of Pine Valley, Colorado, population barely 3,000, was feeling the economic downturn hard. Tourism had dropped significantly since the closure of the nearby ski resort last season, and the locals were stretching their dollars, putting off repairs as long as possible. The ancient heater hummed in the corner of his office, barely keeping the December chill at bay. Through the frost-covered windows, he could see dark clouds gathering over the snow-capped peaks. His phone lit up, a text from his daughter Sophia. "Don't forget, Dad. Winter recital tonight at 7, you promised." Michael smiled, remembering how long she'd practiced for this moment. At 12, Sophia was already an accomplished violinist, and he hadn't missed a single performance since she first picked up the instrument at age 6. The violin had been her mother's idea. Maria had always believed in nurturing their daughter's artistic side, balancing out the hours Sophia spent in the shop learning about engines and tools from Michael. "She needs both worlds, mi amor," Maria would say, the precision of mechanics and the beauty of music. The memory of his late wife still brought a bittersweet ache to his chest, especially during moments like these. He glanced at the clock. 4:30 p.m. Just enough time to finish up the Andersons' brake job, clean up, and make it to the school. The forecast warned of a major snowstorm approaching, but the high school was only 15 minutes away. He could handle a little snow. Besides, he'd promised Sophia he'd be there in the front row, just like Maria used to be. The shop had been different when Maria was alive. Her natural charm and business sense had kept the books balanced and the customers coming back. But in the 3 years since the accident, Michael had struggled to maintain that same connection with the community. He was a better mechanic than a businessman, and it showed in the dwindling customer base and growing stack of unpaid bills. As he slid under the Andersons' pickup truck, the wind outside picked up, whistling through the shop's metal siding like a banshee's wail. Michael worked quickly, determined to keep his promise to Sophia. The radio crackled with weather updates. Winter storm warnings across the county, roads closing, temperatures dropping to record lows. Old Tom at the hardware store had said this might be the worst storm to hit Pine Valley in 20 years. Anderson's truck was his last scheduled job for the day. Pete Anderson was one of his few remaining loyal customers, still bringing all his vehicles to Torres Auto and Diesel, despite the newer, cheaper chain shop that had opened up in the next town over. Michael took extra care with the brake lines, knowing Pete used this truck for his logging business. In Pine Valley, every repair was personal. These weren't just vehicles, they were people's livelihoods. At 5:45 p.m., just as he was locking up, his emergency line rang. Michael hesitated, his hand hovering over the phone. The recital started in just over an hour, and he still needed to shower and change. Sophia had been practicing Vivaldi's Winter for months, determined to earn first chair in the school orchestra. The phone kept ringing, its shrill tone cutting through the howling wind. Something in him wouldn't let him ignore it. "Torres Auto and Diesel," he answered, already knowing he might regret it. "Please, we need help," a woman's voice trembled on the other end. "We're stuck on Mountain Pass Road about 5 miles east of Pine Valley. Our car just died, and we have our children with us. The temperature's dropping so fast and nobody else is answering. The storm." Her voice cracked with a mix of fear and desperation that Michael recognized all too well. He'd heard that same tone in Maria's voice the night of her accident, when she'd called to say she was stuck in a sudden snowstorm. He'd been too busy with a client to pick her up. Michael looked at Sophia's text again, his heart heavy. The pass was treacherous on good days. In a snowstorm, it could be lethal. He thought of Maria, what she would say. "You know what's right, mi amor." She'd always been his moral compass, and even now her memory guided his decisions. "Stay in your car. Keep it running if you can for heat, he instructed, already reaching for his heavy winter coat and emergency kit. I'm coming with my tow truck. It'll take me about 30 minutes in this weather. He could hear the relief flood the woman's voice as she thanked him repeatedly. Michael called Sophia's music teacher, Mrs. Chen, his voice thick with emotion as he explained the situation. There's a family stranded in the storm. The teacher understood and promised to record the performance. But that didn't make the call to Sophia any easier. I'm so sorry, Mija, he said, hearing the disappointment in her silence. There are children stuck up on the pass. I understand, Dad, Sophia replied quietly, in a voice so much like her mother's it made his chest tight. Just be careful, okay? Mom would be proud of you. As Michael steered his tow truck into the gathering storm, snow whipping across his windshield, he couldn't shake the feeling that this night would be different. Something about the desperation in the woman's voice, the worsening storm, his daughter's understanding. It all felt like pieces of a puzzle he couldn't quite see yet. The emergency kit rattled in the back of his truck as he turned onto Mountain Pass Road, his headlights barely penetrating the swirling white darkness ahead. Little did he know that this decision, made with a heavy heart on a snowy evening, would set in motion events that would change not just his life, but the entire community of Pine Valley. Sometimes the most important crossroads in our lives don't announce themselves. They simply arrive on ordinary nights, disguised as difficult choices. Michael spent most of his days alone in the shop since losing Maria. His mornings started at dawn, reviewing paperwork over black coffee in a stained mug she'd given him years ago. Today was different. His old friend and part-time employee, Ray Martinez, had come in early to help catch up on backed-up repairs. You look like hell, Mike, Ray said, leaning against the workbench. That rescue last night must have been rough. Ray had offered to go instead, but his arthritic knee wouldn't have handled the mountain conditions. Besides, Michael never could delegate when children were involved. The shop's interior was a testament to better times. Faded photos lined the walls. Michael and Maria on their wedding day in front of the newly purchased shop. Sophia's first day helping in the garage. The entire crew from 5 years ago when they had enough work for 4 mechanics. Now it was just Michael and Ray, working part-time when his disability check couldn't stretch far enough. The family made it home safe, Michael replied, organizing his tools with the precision Maria had always admired. Their SUV needs work, though. Complete electrical system failure. Haven't seen one that bad since that lightning strike last summer. He didn't mention missing Sophia's recital. Ray had heard the message she left on the shop's answering machine this morning. Her brave attempt to sound understanding despite the disappointment in her voice. The morning light filtered through grimy windows, illuminating dancing dust particles and highlighting the wear on the shop's equipment. The diagnostic computer, once top of the line, now struggled to keep up with newer vehicle models. The hydraulic lift made concerning noises, and the compressor needed constant maintenance. Every repair felt like a battle fought with aging weapons. Bank called again, Ray mentioned cautiously, watching Michael's reaction. Sarah from the loan department says they need to discuss the mortgage. The shop had been Michael's dream, but lately it felt more like an anchor dragging him down. The property was worth less than half what they'd paid for it during the town's boom years. Michael was about to respond when the shop's door chimed. A young mother entered, pushing a stroller with one hand while holding a toddler with the other. The check engine light came on, she explained, looking worried. My husband's away on a trucking job and I can't afford the dealership prices. It was a scene that played out regularly. Locals choosing Torres Auto and Diesel, not because it was the best shop, but because Michael would work with them on payments. Maria had started that policy, and he couldn't bring himself to end it, even as the accountant warned him about the mounting receivables. Let's take a look, Michael said, following her to the parking lot. Ray watched through the window, remembering when the shop saw 20 customers a day. Now they were lucky to get 5. The town was changing and not for the better. The mining company's closure had started the decline, then the ski resort followed. Young families were moving away, seeking opportunities in bigger cities. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, Subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. As Michael worked, Sophia called. She'd left her violin at home and needed him to bring it to school. These small requests had become their way of maintaining normalcy after Maria's death. "I'll have Ray watch the shop," he promised, grateful for his friend's presence today. The violin case sat in Maria's old office, now used for storage. Sheet music still covered the desk and her diplomas hung on the walls. Business administration and marketing, degrees that had helped transform a struggling repair shop into a thriving business. Until the accident changed everything. Before leaving, Michael checked the bank statement one last time. The numbers hadn't improved overnight. 3 years of dipping into savings had left them precariously close to insolvency. The last employee he'd had to let go, Jake, still stopped by occasionally, more to check on Michael than to ask about job openings. The morning sun had burned away some of the snow, but the mountains loomed dark with more storms approaching. Michael drove carefully to Sophia's school, the violin case secure beside him. Each mile marker reminded him of last night's rescue, of the family stranded in the darkness. He wondered if they'd made it to their destination, if the children were warm and safe now. What Michael didn't know was that at that very moment, in a luxurious office 200 miles away, a conversation was taking place that would soon intersect with his life in unexpected ways. The family he'd helped wasn't quite what they seemed, and the next 48 hours would reveal truths that would challenge everything he thought he knew about his future in Pine Valley. The evening brought another snowstorm to Pine Valley, fiercer than the last. Michael was finishing paperwork when his emergency line lit up again. This time, it wasn't a stranded family, but his daughter's school. "Mr. Torres, Sophia's recital ended an hour ago," the security guard explained, concern evident in his voice. "The roads are getting dangerous and we can't reach her usual ride home. She's one of the last students here." Michael grabbed his keys, cursing under his breath. He'd arranged for Sophia to ride with her friend Emma's family, but the storm must have delayed them. The shop's door barely closed against the howling wind as he rushed to his truck. The temperature display read -15 degrees, and the wind chill warning on his phone suggested it felt even colder. The high school parking lot was nearly empty when he arrived, save for a few staff vehicles and the security guard's pickup. Sophia sat on a bench inside the main entrance, her violin case clutched tight, watching snow pile against the windows. Her face lit up when she saw him, though he could see the lingering disappointment from missing her performance. "I'm sorry, Mija," Michael started, but she cut him off with a hug that caught him by surprise. The force of it reminded him of Maria. She used to tackle hug him the same way. "Mrs. Chen showed everyone the video from last night," Sophia said, her voice muffled against his coat. "About how you rescued that family on the pass. Emma's dad said you were crazy to drive up there in that storm, but I told him that's just who you are. Like when Mom needed help, you'd always." She trailed off, both of them remembering the one time he hadn't gone. Michael squeezed her shoulder, fighting back the familiar guilt. The drive home was treacherous, his truck's wipers barely keeping up with the falling snow. His thoughts kept returning to the family from last night. Their expensive SUV seemed out of place for typical past travelers. The woman had mentioned heading to Denver, but their car was pointed toward the old mining roads. Something about their story nagged at him. At home, Sophia practiced her violin while Michael prepared dinner. Maria's recipes still guided their meals. Enchiladas verdes tonight, comfort food for a cold night. The kitchen radio crackled with emergency broadcasts. All mountain passes closed. Travelers advised to seek immediate shelter. Power outages reported in neighboring counties. The aroma of roasting peppers filled their small house, another memory of Maria. She'd insisted on teaching Michael her family's recipes after they married, saying a good mechanic should know how to fix both cars and hunger. Sophia's music provided a haunting soundtrack to the storm outside. She was playing the piece from tonight's recital, each note perfect, despite the missed performance. "Dad," Sophia called suddenly from the living room, her bow falling silent mid-phrase. "There's someone at the shop." Through their window, they could see headlights in the garage's parking lot, the beams cutting through the swirling snow like searchlights. Michael grabbed his coat, telling Sophia to lock the doors behind him. "Be careful," she whispered, an echo of last night's warning. The wind nearly knocked him over as he crossed to the shop. A black sedan sat idling, its windows tinted dark despite state regulations. The vehicle's clean, sleek lines seemed to repel the snow. Definitely not a local car. Before he could reach it, the back door opened. A man emerged, dressed too lightly for the weather in an expensive suit and dress shoes, clutching what looked like a manila envelope. "Mr. Torres?" The man's voice carried despite the wind, cultured and confident. "I represent the family you assisted last night. They asked me to deliver this personally, regardless of weather conditions." He held out the envelope, its edges already dampening in the snow. Michael hesitated. In Pine Valley, strangers with envelopes rarely brought good news. Usually just foreclosure notices or legal threats from the bank. The man seemed to read his thoughts, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I assure you, Mr. Torres, this is something you'll want to see, though I suggest we continue this conversation inside. There's far more to discuss than what's in this envelope, and I believe both of us would prefer to get out of this weather." The shop's office felt cramped with both men inside. The stranger introduced himself as Richard Kent, legal counsel for the Blackwood Group. The name meant nothing to Michael, but Kent's next words would change everything. The lawyer carefully removed his snow-dampened coat, taking in the modest surroundings with an appraising eye that made Michael increasingly uneasy. "The family you helped last night? That was Catherine and James Blackwood, along with their children. Perhaps you've heard of Blackwood Technologies." Kent paused, noting Michael's blank expression. "They've acquired several properties in this region, including your former ski resort. In fact, they own quite a bit of Pine Valley already, though most residents don't know it yet." Michael's mind raced. The Blackwood were indeed well known, though he'd never connected them to the local resort closure. Their tech company had been making headlines for buying struggling towns and transforming them into sustainable communities. Some called them saviors. Others accused them of corporate takeovers disguised as community investment. "Mr. Torres?" Kent continued, settling into Maria's old office chair as if he belonged there. "The Blackwood don't believe in coincidences. They've been quietly evaluating Pine Valley for months. Last night wasn't just a random breakdown. They were surveying the old mining roads for their next project when the storm hit. Your actions impressed them, particularly how you handled the situation without knowing who they were." The envelope contained documents that would take days to fully understand, but the immediate message was clear. The Blackwood had plans for Pine Valley, and somehow, Michael's simple act of kindness had placed him and his shop at the center of those plans. As Kent began to explain the details, the implications grew more staggering with each word. As Kent spoke, the snow continued to fall outside, blanketing Pine Valley in white. Neither man could know that this conversation would mark the beginning of the most challenging and transformative 48 hours in the town's recent history. The real storm, it seemed, was just beginning. The manila envelope sat unopened on Michael's desk while Kent waited patiently. Outside, the storm intensified, rattling the shop's windows with each gust. Michael's hands trembled slightly as he broke the seal, remembering similar envelopes that had brought foreclosure notices and legal threats over the years. "Take your time," Kent said, checking his phone. "The Blackwood were quite specific about their instructions. They want you to understand every detail of their proposal." The documents inside were printed on heavy paper, embossed with the Blackwood Technologies logo, a stylized mountain peak in silver. The first page was a letter, personally signed by James Blackwood. As Michael read, his expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "This can't be right," he muttered, reaching the second page. "They want to invest in my shop? Make it their regional service center?" The amount listed made his head spin. More money than the shop had made in its best years under Maria's management. Kent leaned forward, his expensive suit creasing perfectly. "The Blackwoods are transforming communities across the country, Mr. Torres. But they need local partners they can trust. Last night proved you're exactly the kind of person they're looking for." The proposal outlined a complete modernization of Torres Auto and Diesel, new equipment, expanded facilities, training programs for local youth. But it was the final section that made Michael pause, a clause about maintaining complete autonomy over operations and pricing. "They're not buying me out?" Michael asked, suspicious. In Pine Valley, too many businesses had been purchased and gutted by outside investors. "Quite the opposite, Capitananti Narkitin. They want you to expand. Your reputation for honest work and fair pricing? That's exactly what they need for their larger plans." He pulled out another document, this one showing architectural renderings. "Pine Valley is going to change, Mr. Torres. The Blackwoods are building something unprecedented here, a sustainable technology hub that preserves the town's character while creating new opportunities." Michael thought of Ray, of Jake, of all the skilled workers who'd left Pine Valley seeking better opportunities. "And my employees? The ones I had to let go? The Blackwood want them back, all of them, with competitive wages and benefits." Kent's phone buzzed. "That's Mr. Blackwood now. He'd like to meet with you tomorrow, properly this time, not on the side of a snowy road." A knock at the shop door interrupted them. Sophia stood there, wrapped in her winter coat, violin case still in hand. "Dad, the power's out at home." She eyed Kent curiously. "Mr. Torres," Kent said, standing, "take tonight to review these documents with your daughter. The Blackwood understand this isn't just a business decision. It's about family." He handed Michael a business card with a handwritten number on the back. "Call me when you're ready to discuss next steps. But remember, time is a factor. Pine Valley's future won't wait forever." After Kent left, Sophia helped Michael gather the scattered papers. "Who was that, Dad?" she asked, picking up the architectural renderings. "These look like your mother's drawings," Michael finished. Maria had always sketched her dreams for the shop's expansion, plans they'd never had the money to implement. These professional renderings somehow captured that same vision, as if someone had reached into Maria's imagination and made it real. The storm howled outside as father and daughter sat in the office, reading through the proposals by flashlight. Sophia's violin provided occasional background music when she needed a break from the legal language. Neither of them noticed the time passing until Ray's truck pulled into the lot, chains crunching on the fresh snow. "Power's out all over town," Ray announced, stamping snow from his boots. "Emma's family is worried about Sophia. Thought I'd check on you both." He noticed the papers spread across the desk. "What's all this?" Michael handed him the letter. As Ray read, his weathered face showed the same disbelief Michael had felt. "This could save Pine Valley," Ray whispered. "But Mike, are you sure they're for real?" The question hung in the air, accompanied by the wind's mournful song and the soft notes of Sophia's violin. In 48 hours, Michael would have his answer, one that would reshape not just his future, but the destiny of an entire community. Dawn broke over Pine Valley with unusual clarity, the storm having swept the sky clean. Michael hadn't slept, spending the night reviewing the Blackwood proposal line by line. The shop felt different in the morning light, its flaws more apparent, its potential suddenly visible. His phone buzzed with a text from Kent. "Car arriving at 9 a.m. Blackwood are eager to meet." It was followed by coordinates for a location up in the old mining district. Michael glanced at his watch, 2 hours to prepare. Sophia had fallen asleep on the office couch, her violin case serving as a makeshift pillow. Ray had stayed too, poring over the technical specifications for the proposed equipment upgrades. "This stuff is state-of-the-art, Mike," he said, pointing to a diagnostic system that could handle everything from vintage cars to the latest electric vehicles. "Must be worth millions." Michael made coffee using the shop's ancient percolator, his mind racing. The Blackwood offer seemed too perfect, modernizing the shop while preserving its character, hiring back former employees, creating training programs for local youth. But his years in Pine Valley had taught him to be wary of outside investors bearing promises. At 8:30, Sophia woke up and insisted on helping him prepare. She'd inherited Maria's eye for detail, straightening the framed certificates on the walls while Michael changed into his best work shirt, the one Maria had bought him for client meetings. Mom would say to trust your instincts, Sophia said, adjusting his collar. Like when you help them on the pass. She paused, studying his face. You're worried it's too good to be true, aren't you? Before Michael could answer, a vehicle pulled into the lot. Not the expected luxury car, but Jake's beaten-up pickup. His former employee looked anxious, clutching a newspaper. Mike, you need to see this. The front page of the Pine Valley Gazette featured a rendering of a massive technology campus, scheduled to be built on the old mining grounds. The Blackwood project had been in planning for months. Comments from town officials suggested they'd known all along but had been bound by non-disclosure agreements. They're saying it'll bring hundreds of jobs, Jake said, spreading the paper across a workbench. But look at the fine print. They need skilled technical workers. Local businesses will have to adapt or... He trailed off, pointing to a section about modernization initiatives. Ray studied the article, his expression darkening. They're not just investing in your shop, Mike. They're making sure they have someone they trust handling their fleet. He tapped the paper. Say they're bringing in over 300 electric vehicles for their employees. The implications hit Michael like a physical blow. The Blackwood weren't just offering charity. They needed his shop, his reputation, his community connections. The question was, could he trust them to preserve what made Torres Auto and Diesel special? A sleek black SUV pulled into the lot, different from the one he'd helped on the pass, but clearly from the same fleet. Kent emerged from the back seat, accompanied by a woman in a crisp business suit. Mr. Torres, he called out, ready for your meeting with the Blackwood? Michael looked at his daughter, then at his friends. Ray nodded slightly. Jake managed a tight smile. Sophia hugged him fiercely, whispering, Do what feels right, Dad, like you always do. As Michael walked toward the SUV, he felt the weight of more than just his own future riding on this meeting. Pine Valley was changing, whether he embraced it or not. The real question was whether he could help guide that change, keeping the soul of the community intact while building something new. The woman opened the SUV's door, revealing luxurious leather interiors. Mr. Torres, she said warmly, the Blackwood are waiting. They have quite a vision to share with you. As Michael settled into the seat, he caught a glimpse of his reflection in the tinted windows, and for a moment he swore he saw Maria smiling back at him, nodding in encouragement. The SUV pulled away from the shop, carrying Michael toward a meeting that would determine not just his fate, but the future of everything and everyone he held dear in Pine Valley. The morning sun glinted off the fresh snow, turning the world into a blank canvas awaiting its first marks. The SUV wound its way up the old mining road, each turn revealing more of Pine Valley below. Michael sat silently, studying the transformation of the landscape. Where abandoned equipment once rusted, construction crews were already at work, their yellow machines stark against the snow. Security checkpoints dotted the access road, staffed by professional teams that verified their credentials at each stop. Kent handled introductions as they arrived at a modern glass building, a temporary headquarters perched on the mountainside. The Blackwood insisted on building this first, he explained, to show Pine Valley they're committed to quality. Every material was locally sourced where possible, and they hired Pine Valley contractors for the initial construction. Inside, James Blackwood cut a different figure from the stranded traveler Michael had helped. Gone was the worried father, replaced by a confident CEO in a tailored suit. Catherine Blackwood stood beside him, their children nowhere in sight. The office space hummed with activity. Engineers poring over blueprints, environmental consultants discussing impact reports, community liaison officers preparing presentation materials. Mr. Torres, James extended his hand. We meet again, under better circumstances. His grip was firm, his smile genuine. That night on the pass, you had no idea who we were, yet you treated us like family. That's increasingly rare in today's world. Catherine stepped forward, her presence as commanding as her husband's. We've spent months evaluating Pine Valley, meeting with business owners privately. But we couldn't find the right partner for our automotive division, until that storm forced our hand. Sometimes the best partnerships start with a simple act of kindness. The conference room offered a panoramic view of the valley. Architectural models covered the tables, not just of the tech campus, but of a transformed downtown. Michael recognized his shop's location, now expanded into a modern facility nearly triple its current size. The designs preserved the original building's facade while seamlessly integrating state-of-the-art additions. "We're not just building offices," James explained, gesturing to the models. "We're creating a community, the kind where people like your daughter can pursue their dreams without leaving home." He pressed a button, and screens descended from the ceiling, showing video renderings of the project. The presentations detailed everything from renewable energy systems to cultural preservation initiatives. "But we need someone who understands Pine Valley's heart," Catherine added, pulling up detailed community impact studies. "Someone the community trusts. The way you run your shop, Mr. Torres. The payment plans for struggling families, the mentoring of young mechanics. That's exactly what we want to preserve and expand. We've analyzed your customer service records, payment histories, and community involvement. Your approach to business aligns perfectly with our vision." Michael studied the models, thinking of Maria. She'd always said Pine Valley needed to evolve while keeping its soul. "And my employees? The community programs?" He thought of Ray's arthritis, Jake's unemployment, all the young people who'd left seeking opportunities elsewhere. James pulled out a comprehensive staffing plan. "We want to expand them. Your shop won't just service our fleet, it'll be a training center. Local youth learning electric vehicle maintenance, hybrid systems, autonomous vehicle technology. Full scholarships for promising students. We're prepared to fund 20 full-time positions immediately, with plans to double that within 2 years." The numbers they presented were staggering. Equipment upgrades worth millions, salary packages that would attract top talent, education funds for continued training. But it was the final detail that caught Michael off guard. They wanted to name the training center after Maria. The proposed Maria Torres Technical Academy would offer certifications in everything from traditional mechanics to cutting-edge automotive technology. "We researched your history," Catherine said softly, sharing a presentation about Maria's contributions to Pine Valley. Maria's business degree, her community initiatives. The scholarship program will be her legacy. "We want to honor that, while building something new." Michael turned to the window, fighting emotion. Below, Pine Valley spread out like a diorama. He could see his shop, Sophia's school, the neighborhoods where generations had grown up. The Blackwood were offering more than money. They were offering a future that preserved the past while embracing progress. "There's something else," James added, pulling out a folder bound with the Blackwood corporate seal. "We know about the bank troubles. As of this morning, we've purchased your mortgage. The shop is yours, free and clear. Consider it a down payment on our partnership." Michael's hands trembled as he opened the folder marked Petit Enter. "Arrêtez le retimer. Mana conreria centennial. Dapper." Inside lay not just the deed to his shop, but years of burden lifted from his shoulders. The morning sun streamed through the conference room windows, catching the golden seal on the documents. A large screen displayed security footage from that snowy night. Michael helping the Blackwood children from their SUV, working tirelessly in the storm. Catherine Blackwood touched the screen gently. "This moment changed everything, not just for you, but for Pine Valley." James spread out implementation timelines across the conference table. Phase 1 begins immediately. Your shop's renovation starts next week. We'll set up temporary facilities so you can continue operations during construction. He pointed to detailed blueprints. The Maria Torres Technical Academy will occupy the East Wing. State-of-the-art classrooms, simulation labs, workshop spaces. Michael studied the staffing proposals. Ray would oversee the classic car division. The Blackwood understood Pine Valley's passion for vintage automobiles. Jake would return as head instructor, his experience perfect for teaching the next generation. The salary packages included full benefits, retirement plans, and educational support. "There's more," Catherine said, revealing community impact studies. "We're not just transforming your shop. Pine Valley needs infrastructure to support our tech campus. Roads, housing, schools. We want local businesses involved every step of the way." The morning stretched into the afternoon as they discussed details. Michael learned the Blackwood had already purchased the struggling diner next door, Sophia's favorite place for breakfast. "We're keeping the current owners as managers," James explained. "Like your shop, it's part of Pine Valley's character." Kent brought lunch from that very diner. Michael recognized Pete's signature green chili recipe. "We've been quietly supporting local businesses for months," Catherine revealed, "learning the community's heart before making our presence known." As they ate, James shared their vision for Pine Valley's future. The tech campus would bring jobs, but not at the expense of the town's soul. "We've seen too many communities lose their identity to progress," he said. "That's why we need partners like you, Michael. People who understand balance." Michael's phone buzzed. Sophia, checking in. The message included a photo of Ray and Jake at the shop, grinning over the morning's newspaper. The Blackwoods announcement was already transforming the town's mood. "Speaking of Sophia," Catherine interjected, sliding across another folder, "we understand she's quite talented with the violin." Inside was information about a performing arts center planned for downtown. Pine Valley deserves culture alongside technology. Would she be interested in teaching beginner classes? The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the architectural models as Michael absorbed everything. This wasn't just a business deal. It was a chance to preserve Pine Valley's best qualities while building something new. He thought of Maria, how she'd always believed in the town's potential. "One last thing," James said, producing a final document. "We need someone to oversee all automotive operations in Pine Valley, someone who understands both the technical and human aspects." The position's details were extraordinary. Authority over the entire transportation division, from the service centers to the training programs. Michael stared at the job offer, remembering Maria's words about evolution and soul. The salary was more than he'd ever imagined, but that wasn't what moved him. It was the chance to ensure Pine Valley's growth stayed true to its values. Outside, construction crews continued their work against the mountain backdrop. Kent had been quietly making calls, setting the transformation in motion. The sun caught the glass building's edges, making it shimmer like a beacon of change. "Why me?" Michael finally asked. "There must be more qualified people." Catherine smiled, replaying the security footage. "Because in that moment, in that storm, you showed us something money can't buy. Genuine care for others. That's what we're investing in, Michael. Not just buildings and equipment, but heart." The transformation of Torres Auto and Diesel began at dawn the next morning. Construction crews arrived before sunrise, setting up temporary workspaces while architects marked areas for renovation. Michael watched from his office, still processing the whirlwind of the previous day's meetings. The morning light revealed a Pine Valley awakening to change, its streets buzzing with renewed energy. Sophia arrived early, violin case in hand, eager to see the initial stages of construction. "Dad," Mrs. Chen called. She announced, her eyes bright with excitement. "She wants to discuss music programs for the new Performing Arts Center." The Blackwood already contacted her. The pride in her voice reminded Michael of Maria's enthusiasm for new projects. Ray and Jake had spread the word among former employees. By 8 o'clock, the shop's parking lot filled with familiar faces, mechanics who'd left seeking better opportunities, now returning home with hope in their eyes. Michael gathered them in the temporary office space, sharing details of the Blackwood plans. The room crackled with energy as he outlined the training programs, hiring schedules, and community initiatives. "This isn't just about fixing cars anymore," Michael explained, gesturing to the blueprints. "We're building something bigger. The Maria Torres Technical Academy will train the next generation of automotive specialists. Every person in this room has a place in that future." He watched their expressions shift from skepticism to understanding as he detailed the comprehensive benefits packages, continuing education opportunities, and career advancement paths. Kent arrived mid-morning with the first wave of new equipment. State-of-the-art diagnostic systems, advanced tools, and training materials filled the temporary workspace. "The Blackwood don't believe in waiting," he said, handling Michael a tablet containing the digital infrastructure plans. "They want Pine Valley to see immediate progress." The tablet revealed a comprehensive transformation strategy. The shop's customer database would integrate with modern management systems while preserving the personal touch that made Torres Auto and Diesel special. Michael's fair pricing policies and payment plans for struggling families would become standardized programs, supported by Blackwood Resource but maintaining local control. As the day progressed, town officials visited the site. Mayor Richardson, initially skeptical of outside investors, watched the construction with growing approval. "The Blackwood called me this morning," she confided to Michael. "Their commitment to preserving Pine Valley's character while bringing in new opportunities, it's unprecedented." The local news station set up cameras documenting the historic changes. Michael found himself giving interviews, explaining how a simple act of kindness during a snowstorm had catalyzed Pine Valley's renaissance. "This isn't just about modernization," he told reporters. "It's about building on our community's strengths, preserving what makes us special, while embracing the future." By afternoon, the transformation extended beyond the shop. Survey teams marked locations for the Performing Arts Center, new housing developments, and infrastructure improvements. The Blackwood vision for Pine Valley unfolded like a blooming flower, each petal revealing another aspect of positive change. Sophia spent her lunch break with Catherine Blackwood, discussing the integration of arts and technology in the community's future. "Your father's compassion inspired us," Catherine explained, sharing preliminary designs for the music school. "We believe technology and culture must grow together for a community to thrive." As evening approached, Michael gathered his expanded team for a final meeting. The temporary office space barely contained them all: former employees, new hires, and community partners. Ray, his arthritis forgotten in the excitement, outlined plans for the classic car division. Jake presented the training program structure, his experience as both mechanic and mentor shining through. "Tomorrow," Michael announced, "we begin actual renovations. But tonight I want you all to understand what we're building here. The Blackwood chose Pine Valley not just for its location or resources, but for its heart." He paused, emotion thick in his voice. "Maria always said our shop was more than a business. It was a part of the community's soul. Now we have the chance to make that vision bigger than we ever imagined." The setting sun painted the construction site in golden hues as the meeting concluded. Workers secured equipment and updated progress reports. Kent, preparing to leave, handed Michael one final document: the official naming ceremony schedule for the Maria Torres Technical Academy. The date coincided with what would have been Maria's birthday. As Michael locked up the temporary office, Sophia practicing her violin in the background, he realized that Pine Valley's transformation was more than physical changes and economic opportunities. It was the realization of a dream that had started years ago, when he and Maria first opened their small shop with big hopes for their community's future. The next morning brought controlled chaos to Pine Valley. Construction crews worked methodically on the shop's transformation, while Michael and his team operated from the temporary facility. The Blackwood efficiency proved remarkable. New equipment arrived hourly, each piece integrating seamlessly into their growing operation. The sound of progress echoed through the valley, a symphony of change that drew curious onlookers from neighboring towns. Local media swarmed the site, capturing the rapid changes. Michael watched from his makeshift office as reporters interviewed his returning employees. Jake, now the lead instructor for the training program, demonstrated the new diagnostic systems to an enthusiastic audience. His hands moved confidently across the equipment, explaining how this technology would prepare students for the automotive industry's future. Ray supervised the classic car division's setup, his expertise drawing admirers from vintage car communities across the state. His arthritis seemed forgotten as he shared stories of restoration projects with passionate collectors. Sophia split her time between school and the shop, her violin practice now accompanied by the rhythmic sounds of construction. The Performing Arts Center plans had energized the local music community. Chen had already assembled a preliminary teaching schedule, incorporating both traditional and modern approaches to music education. The prospect of combining technology with artistic expression created a buzz among students who had previously planned to leave Pine Valley for cultural opportunities. Catherine Blackwood visited mid-morning, bringing architectural updates and a team of designers. The Maria Torres Technical Academy's design had evolved, incorporating suggestions from the community. "Your wife's influence is everywhere," she told Michael, showing him the latest renderings. Each detail reflects her vision for education and community service. The plans now included a memorial garden where students could study or practice, featuring Maria's favorite flowers and a small fountain that would provide peaceful background music. The bank that had once threatened foreclosure now prominently displayed photos of the project in their lobby. The branch manager, who'd reluctantly delivered numerous late payment notices, eagerly shared stories of the Blackwoods' investment in Pine Valley. Michael's journey from struggling business owner to community leader became their favorite success story. They'd even created a special small business support program, inspired by his experience. By afternoon, the transformation extended beyond physical construction. Kent arrived with implementation plans for the scholarship program, accompanied by education specialists and career counselors. 20 local students would receive full funding for automotive technology education, with guaranteed positions upon graduation. The selection committee included community leaders, ensuring opportunities reached those who needed them most. Special consideration would be given to students from families struggling with economic hardship, honoring Michael's long-standing practice of helping those in need. Mayor Richardson called an emergency town council meeting to discuss the broader impacts. The Blackwoods' investment had triggered interest from other businesses, leading to a flood of development proposals. Real estate values rose as news spread of Pine Valley's renaissance, but protection mechanisms ensured longtime residents wouldn't be priced out of their community. The council established guidelines to preserve the town's character while embracing progress. Michael spent hours in conference calls with automotive industry leaders, his expertise now sought by companies that had previously overlooked Pine Valley. The Blackwoods' reputation opened doors previously locked to small-town operations. Manufacturing representatives discussed supply partnerships, tech companies explored testing collaborations, and environmental organizations praised their sustainable approach to development. Each conversation reinforced that Pine Valley was becoming a model for responsible community transformation. As evening approached, Sophia burst into the temporary office with exciting news. The State Symphony had expressed interest in performing at the Art Center's opening. "They want to commission a piece about Pine Valley's transformation," she explained, her eyes shining. "Mrs. Chen thinks I could help compose it. They want to incorporate sounds from the auto shop, the rhythms of work and progress." The idea of combining classical music with the sounds of their community perfectly symbolized the blend of tradition and innovation shaping Pine Valley's future. The day's final meeting brought unexpected visitors. Former customers who'd left town for better opportunities returned, seeking to reconnect. Their stories reflected Pine Valley's journey, years of struggle followed by renewed hope. Michael recognized their experiences in his own path, understanding that his shop's transformation represented something larger than business success. Ray gathered the team for a celebration dinner at Pete's Diner, now undergoing its own subtle renovation. The Blackwood had preserved its classic charm while upgrading the kitchen and expanding the seating area. Pete himself served their meals, his famous green chile recipe unchanged despite the modernization around him. The diner hummed with conversation about the future, plans being made, dreams being revived. As night fell, Michael stood in the construction site that had been his shop's parking lot. Tomorrow would bring more changes, more challenges, more opportunities. But tonight, watching his expanded family of employees and friends celebrate, he understood that Pine Valley's transformation went beyond buildings and businesses. It was about preserving the heart of a community while giving it room to grow. The stars emerged above the mountains, their eternal presence a reminder that some things remain constant despite change. Maria had always loved these quiet moments when day fades to night and possibility fills the air. The academy bearing her name would ensure her vision lived on, touching lives she'd never known but somehow always believed in. A text from James Blackwood interrupted his reflection. "Tomorrow's announcement will change everything again. Pine Valley is just the beginning." Michael smiled, knowing that whatever came next, his community would face it together, stronger than ever. The night air carried the promise of dawn, of progress, of dreams taking shape in the shadow of the mountains. The next morning dawned with unprecedented anticipation in Pine Valley. Pine Valley High School's auditorium was packed for the Blackwoods' special announcement. Michael sat in the front row with Sophia, surrounded by his employees and community leaders. James and Catherine Blackwood took the stage as local news cameras rolled. "Pine Valley is more than just our next development project," James began, sharing footage of that snowy night rescue. "It's a blueprint for the future. Today, we're announcing a $5 billion investment in sustainable technology hubs across America, and Pine Valley will lead the way." Catherine unveiled detailed plans that extended far beyond their initial proposals. The tech campus would become the Blackwood Innovation Center's national headquarters. 3,000 new jobs would come to Pine Valley within 2 years. The Maria Torres Technical Academy would serve as a model for similar facilities nationwide. Michael watched the crowd's reaction, seeing hope replace skepticism on familiar faces. The presentation outlined partnerships with major tech companies, automotive manufacturers, and educational institutions. Pine Valley wouldn't just be transformed, it would become a transformation catalyst for other struggling communities. Ray leaned over, whispering, "Did you know about this?" Michael shook his head, equally amazed by the scale of the Blackwoods' vision. The Technical Academy, initially planned for 100 students, would now accommodate 500. The Performing Arts Center would expand to include a technology and arts fusion program, with Sophia's violin program as its pilot project. Mayor Richardson took the stage, emotion evident in her voice. 10 years ago, we watched our mining industry die. 5 years ago, we lost the ski resort. Today, we're witnessing Pine Valley's rebirth. She shared economic projections showing how the Blackwoods' investment would ripple through the community. Property values would rise, but dedicated affordable housing programs would protect longtime residents. The announcement stretched into mid-morning as each aspect of the expansion was detailed. Environmental scientists explained how the development would preserve Pine Valley's natural beauty while incorporating sustainable technologies. Urban planners demonstrated how the town's character would be maintained despite the growth. Sophia squeezed Michael's hand as Catherine announced a special scholarship fund in Maria's name. The Maria Torres Legacy Fund will support students pursuing both technical and artistic education, she explained, because Pine Valley's future needs both mechanics and musicians, engineers, and artists. Local business owners learned how they'd fit into the larger vision. Pete's Diner would become the first of several protected historic businesses, guaranteed support while maintaining independence. The Blackwoods' approach to preservation alongside progress resonated deeply with the community. As the presentation concluded, James called Michael to the stage. "None of this would have happened without one man's kindness on a snowy night," he said. "Michael Torres showed us what makes Pine Valley special. His compassion, integrity, and commitment to community will guide this project's values." Michael stood at the podium looking out at faces he'd known for years. He thought of Maria, of their early dreams for the shop, of Sophia's future. "Pine Valley has always been more than a place," he said. "It's a family. Today, that family grows stronger and larger, but our heart remains the same." The applause that followed felt like a release of years of uncertainty. Outside, construction crews were already breaking ground on the expanded projects. The temporary shop facility hummed with activity as news of the announcement spread. Phones rang with inquiries from across the country. Kent approached Michael after the presentation, carrying yet another folder. "The Blackwoods want you to oversee the National Training Program development," he said. "Your shop will be the prototype, but your influence will extend much further." Sophia's violin teacher rushed over, clutching preliminary plans for the arts program. The State Symphony had confirmed their commitment, expanding it to include a youth orchestra program. Sophia would help lead workshops combining music with technology education. By evening, Pine Valley buzzed with energy unlike anything since its mining heyday. Michael worked late, coordinating with contractors and responding to messages from automotive industry leaders. The shop's transformation had become a symbol of the town's renaissance. As night fell, he found Sophia practicing in the temporary facility, her music mixing with the sounds of construction. The melody seemed to capture everything: hope, change, preservation, progress. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but Pine Valley would face them together, stronger than ever. Looking up at the stars, Michael whispered, "We did it, Maria. We really did it." The mountain winds carried his words into the night, where dreams of the future danced with memories of the past. 3 years later, Pine Valley stood transformed beyond recognition, yet its soul remained intact. The Maria Torres Technical Academy celebrated its 1,000th graduate, with Michael presiding over the ceremony in the state-of-the-art auditorium. The campus sprawled across the former mining grounds, its sustainable architecture harmonizing with the mountain landscape, while housing some of the most advanced automotive training facilities in the country. Sophia, now 15, conducted the student orchestra in their performance of Valley Renaissance, a piece she had helped compose that combined classical music with the rhythmic sounds of automotive work. The composition had become Pine Valley's signature sound, performed at every major town event and graduation ceremony. Her growth as both musician and composer reflected the town's own transformation. The original Torres Auto and Diesel building remained preserved at the heart of the complex, its classic facade untouched while its interior housed cutting-edge technology. Michael's office stayed exactly as it had been, though Maria's photo now shared wall space with hundreds of graduation pictures. Each image told a story of opportunity and change. Ray continued overseeing the classic car division, his expertise shaping a new generation of restoration specialists. Despite his arthritis, he worked daily with students, passing on not just technical skills, but the values that had made Pine Valley special. Jake had become one of the country's leading instructors in electric vehicle technology, his programs drawing students from across the nation. The Blackwoods vision had exceeded even their own ambitious expectations. Pine Valley's success sparked similar transformations nationwide, with 20 more communities selected for technology hub development. Each featured its own version of the Technical Academy, though none quite captured the unique spirit of the original. The Pine Valley model became a case study in sustainable community development, featured in economic journals and urban planning conferences. Pete's Diner had doubled in size, but maintained its charm, becoming a favorite spot where tech executives and local mechanics shared counterspace. The green chili recipe remained unchanged, though Pete now offered a vegetarian version for the influx of coastal transplants. The old-timers still gathered each morning, marveling at how their town had changed while staying true to itself. Michael's role had evolved far beyond being a shop owner. As national director of the Blackwood Automotive Education Initiative, he traveled frequently, helping other communities replicate Pine Valley's success. Yet he remained deeply rooted in his hometown, drawn by the community that had supported him through harder times. His story became legendary in automotive education circles, the small-town mechanic who helped reshape technical training across America. The Performing Arts Center, connected to the Technical Academy by a glass-enclosed walkway, symbolized the fusion of technology and culture that defined the new Pine Valley. Students moved freely between both facilities, creating innovations that combined mechanical precision with artistic vision. Sophia's violin program had inspired similar initiatives nationwide, proving that arts and technology could not just coexist, but enhance each other. On the anniversary of that fateful night, The Blackwoods hosted a community celebration where they finally admitted the truth about their breakdown. James revealed that they had studied dozens of communities, but needed to feel Pine Valley's heart. "Michael showed us that heart," he said, when he chose helping strangers over his own interests. The event displays chronicling Pine Valley's transformation, from struggling town to thriving innovation hub. But the centerpiece remained the security camera footage from that snowy night. Michael, unaware of the changes to come, simply helping a family in need. This simple act of kindness had sparked a revolution in community development. As evening fell, Michael stood in the memorial garden outside the academy. Maria's favorite flowers bloomed year-round in the climate-controlled space, their fragrance mixing with the mountain air. Sophia practiced nearby, her violin music carrying through the garden's peaceful atmosphere. The mountain winds still whispered through the valley, but now they carried the sounds of progress and purpose. Looking out over the transformed valley, Michael remembered his doubts from 3 years ago. The changes had seemed impossible then, the future uncertain. But Pine Valley has proven that progress doesn't have to come at the cost of community. Sometimes the biggest transformations start with the smallest acts of kindness. That night, as the stars emerged above the Innovation Center's solar panels, Michael whispered a quiet thank you to the storm that had changed everything. In the distance, construction continued on Pine Valley's newest expansion, but the heart of the community beat as strong as ever, echoing with the rhythm of hope, heritage, and endless possibility. The story of Pine Valley became more than just a tale of transformation. It became a blueprint for how communities could embrace the future while preserving their soul. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.